The best thing that you can do for your business and for your clients is to decrease the friction to transaction. The faster you can have people pay you without stress or resistance is going to be the absolute best thing. And that is why I got one of my absolute best buddies here in the whole entire world, Jonathan McAleese. Man, I am so happy to have you from FORTIS. Welcome to the Chiropractors Edge.
Thanks, Dr. Jake. Great to be here.
Hey, man. Yeah, you and I, again, we go way back from when I first started my practice to everything. And you guys have absolutely been instrumental. I was just, you and I were sharing in the here in the pregame show. One of my favorite things in the morning, I'm holding up my phone for those who aren't listening. I've got my FORTIS batch email up telling me what went through yesterday, the money that we brought in. If a car didn't run right, it's one of my favorite ways I start my day. And I'd highly recommend that for you guys. And it's not that you're not just chasing money, but you need to have a relationship with money so that you can be able to give back and do all the things that you need to do so that you can attract more love and light into your life. Again, it's one of the absolute favorite things. So for those of you docs, again, FORTIS, they allow us to do business. They allow all of our transactions, and we have a number of different transactions that happen in our practice. We have people who it's billed automatically. It comes out once a month. It comes out once a week. They do a payment thing once a year. We do big transactions. We just did one of my favorite things. We just did a huge spinal screening, and this is a problem you guys solved for me a few years ago. As I said, hey, years ago, I'm like, hey, I don't want to use Square. I don't want to use these other systems that charge. It doesn't integrate to my software. They're like, man, problem solved. You guys created a mobile app. So now I can literally carry you guys around the world and transaction is done. That's awesome.
Yep. We're trying to make your life easier and make payments frictionless.
Yeah. Well, for those, I know there's going to be a few docs in our group as I've pulled docs over the last several months. Who don't have FORTIS. And a lot of the questions that people had said was, well, the practice I bought or the system I had was free, so we get these golden handcuffs, right? We get handcuffs to bad systems, poor systems. And then when you get really busy, it's really easy to get distracted because it's so busy. And one of the things I love about FORTIS is how seamless it is. It's seamless. It was put into our EHR. Everything was put in so quickly. It was awesome. And as I looked at that, I thought, gosh, this was huge because we just fired I'm always looking for ways to bring in revenue, and I'm always willing to give people a try if they love chiropractic and they've been vetted. And we just had to let a company go for some of our social media stuff. And I look back and I'm like, okay, there's no track history, none whatsoever. A bunch of college students got together, had a great idea, it just didn't pan out. But that's not your story. Man, FORTIS has a massive track record. Would you mind sharing with the group today, the Chiropractors Edge, how FORTIS came to be and why you guys love and support chiropractic?
Sure. So the story starts back actually 1969. So we're going to go kind of way back. So whenever I speak to students or I speak like at Life, things like that, I always ask people, how many of you got involved in chiropractic because either you or someone you know was impacted by chiropractic? And it's usually 80+%, right?
Right.
That's always how it goes. And that's the same for me. So back in 69, my dad was an immigrant to this country. He was born in Scotland. He grew up in Detroit and Dearborn, Michigan. And Vietnam comes along. And so my dad, being kind of loving this country and loving the country that basically adopted him, he was going to go fight for this country. So he didn't want to get drafted. So he decided to enlist. And so he enlisted in the Marine Corps. And my dad's not a big guy. He's like 5'6". At the time, he weighed 112 pounds going into the Marine Corps. So they bulk him up to 165. And my dad was good with computers and they were going to make him a sniper and things like that. But he's doing hand-to-hand combat in basic training. And so he goes up against this guy who's 6'2", like 220 pounds. And they used to fight with what they call pugil sticks. Mm-hmm. So if you remember the American Gladiators, like the TV show,
yeah,
each other off like that pylon, and there were cushions on the end of this thing and they would knock each other. They used those in the Marine Corps, except it was a wooden block on the end, not a this cushiony thing. And so the guy hits my dad in the side of the head. My dad flips upside down, lands on his head, passes out cold. So they send him to the infirmary and wake him back up. And they kind of just send him back out there. So he goes back and, he's continues through basic training, playing handball, running in combat boots. And over the next couple of weeks, his knees start to swell. And it gets bad enough where they decide to do surgery on him. And back then they wouldn't knock you out for this surgery. So they just numbed him from the waist down. And so they numb him, and my dad was awake for this surgery. Surgeon opens up his knee, and my dad remembers hearing the surgeon say there's nothing structurally wrong with this guy's knee. So they suture him back up, send him back out there. Over the next few weeks, my dad goes from 165 pounds down to 86 pounds, full quadriplegic, no use of his hands or legs. So the Marine Corps medically discharges him, and they start sending him all over the country to every hospital, anywhere they can find on the Marine Corps' dime. And they keep sending him from hospital to hospital, and every doctor is offering him drug or surgery, right? They're doing what they're trained to do. And so my dad remembers lying in a hospital bed, looking up at the ceiling, going, if I don't get out of here, they're going to kill me. And so the Marine Corps, these doctors basically tell him you're going to be crippled for life, and that's your life's destiny. And so my dad just goes home because he feels like they were offering him no options, and they were sending him to the best hospitals around the country.
Wow.
So my dad goes home for a year, goes back to Detroit, and basically starts living his life as this crippled individual in a wheelchair. And so about 10, 11 months go by, and his mother, my grandmother, at the time was seeing a chiropractor, and she had Addison's disease. And she noticed that if she would get a chiropractic adjustment, that she could take half of her medication and it worked just as well as when she wasn't getting adjusted, and she would take the whole medication. And so, Addison's disease, your adrenal glands don't regulate properly. And so she's like, I see this great chiropractor, come see him. And at the time, my dad's like, no. This is at the time chiropractors are quacks. What do they know? Right? Things like that. And so eventually my dad relents because, after spending a year in a wheelchair, you're kind of like, I'll try anything. So my dad goes and sees this chiropractor, and the chiropractor my dad saw was Dr. Ian Grassam. So Dr. Grassam takes an x-ray of my dad, and my dad's atlas is completely shoved into his spinal cord. So he's just subluxated. And Dr. Ian looks at my dad and goes, I can fix you. There was structurally no damage. But, obviously when my dad got hit in the side of the head, I'm sure it knocked his atlas into his spinal cord and just slowly started to have the issues, right? Dang. So Dr. Ian starts adjusting my dad every single day. So my dad's getting adjusted every single day. And after about, I think it was like 6 weeks, he could ride a bicycle. After about 6 months, he was walking with a cane. And then a year later, he was as good as he was ever going to be. Dr. Ian told my dad, you're going to have degenerative arthritis, which he did have and does have still today. But, every chiropractor told him, all these doctors told him he was never going to walk again. And Dr. Ian saved my dad's life and got him out of a wheelchair. So my dad looks at Dr. Ian, says, how can I ever repay you? And being the chiropractor that Dr. Ian is, he said, go become a chiropractor. So my dad goes to St. Louis to Logan, goes to chiropractic college, starts following Dr. Ian Grassam, Jimmy Gregg, and John Hoffman around. So they used to call them back in the day, the Three Amigos. These guys were just, pioneers of chiropractic. Dr. Ian used to drive around, and he had bought a Hearst, like, where they carry down, and he put a needle on the top of it, obviously for talking about vaccines and some of these kinds of things. So these are guys, this is back in the 70s, these guys were doing this and just really like leading the charge in chiropractic. And so these three guys became my dad's mentors. They were taking him to DE seminars, and DE was the only thing back in the day. If you were a principled chiropractor, it was DE. There was nothing else.
Right.
So dad's going to DE seminars, following them around, and Jimmy Gregg introduces my dad to this woman who was working in her dad's office. They later get married. That becomes my mother. And so my dad met my mom at a chiropractic seminar. She was a CA in her dad's office. So, now, later has my brother and my brother becomes a chiropractor. So in my family alone, just immediate family, my brother's a chiropractor, my dad's a chiropractor, my dad's brother is a chiropractor, my mom's sister is a chiropractor, her husband's a chiropractor, my mom's dad, my grandfather, is a chiropractor, his brother is a chiropractor, so my grandfather's brother. And he's actually one of the founding members of Life University, along with Jimmy Gregg, John Hoffman, and Ian Grassam.
Wow.
And so, my dad was basically just grew up and was mentored by some of the top people in chiropractic. And obviously his life was saved by them. And so I owe my life to chiropractic. I would literally not be here today if it wasn't for chiropractic. And so kind of fast forward years later. So while I love chiropractic and I feel like more of a chiropractor than most chiropractors out there today, it just wasn't, I'm a math, I'm a numbers, I'm a tech guy, right? And so that's really where my background is. And so, I came to Fortis in 2011. And what happened was about 2 years in, or maybe a year and a half in, my brother approached us and asked us if there was a better way to run payments. And so at the time, he was seeing about 800 patient visits a week. So he was running a really high volume clinic, and he was running 100 to 130,000 a month in credit card transactions, but he was doing it all on a terminal. And so on the 1st and 15th, he would have a staff member go into the back office and literally head down, key entering transactions from their black book into a terminal to run transactions. And so at first, at the time, we were like, okay, well, let's give you some technology. Maybe this will help the problem. So we tried Auth.net, we tried Moneris, we tried NMI, we tried all these different gateway technologies. And while they were better than what he was using, it still didn't solve the problem. So Jimmy, our CEO, came up with the idea of, why don't we build our own platform? And so we were actually at a seminar. We were sitting next to Genesis in EHR.
Yeah, that's right.
And our CEO was talking to Arez and said, hey, Arez, if we built a gateway, would you guys integrate it? And they said yes. And so right then and there, Jimmy made a phone call. We had someone building a different tech product for us, and we shifted focus. And he started building a payment gateway. And about 8 months later, we integrated it into their system. We launched it. We got my brother using it. From there, we got about 20, 30 more offices using it. And the system just kind of grew from there. And so that's kind of the story of how Fortis kind of made its way into chiropractic. And in that, we really just, when we launched the system, obviously we knew what to build and we knew the framework of what to build, but really how the system got built was feedback from offices. And, it's so interesting because we have all these crazy features today that no other gateway has. And primarily it's because running payments in a chiropractic office is so much more unique than any other business out there, right? Because even if you, like most businesses, it's one-time transactions, right? That is 80+% of businesses, right? Like, and then even when you get into recurring payments, recurring revenue, you think of, what was I thinking of? Netflix as an example, right? Very easy. Subscription model, you pay your monthly payment. You don't pay your monthly payment, your subscription shuts off, right? Very simple. Gym membership, same thing, right? You don't pay, you don't get in, or you don't get to use the service.
Right.
There's nuance to this, right? Like you need to be able to take payments, one-time payments. You need to be able to store your patient's cards on file. You need to be able to run recurring payments, but you also need to have this nuanced scenario of you're running a family like clinic and people have real financial hardship that occurs, or people have problems. They get in a car accident. They have a financial hardship. They have an issue with their kid, a medical bill. They break a leg. They need to go get a cat. Like everyday real life, their car breaks down, right? And people are running tight financially, but you want to be able to assist them, right? And you want to take care of your patients, but you have these nuanced situations that you need to deal with. And so really that's how the system got built. Is we heard all sorts of crazy use cases from offices where they're like, hey, it'd be really cool if the system could do this for me or could do this for me. And we were like, oh, cool, that's a great idea. We'll build it. And we did.
Man, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story about, your dad, how he, how literally chiropractic changed his life. And you're right. You walk into a room, how many of you here because of what chiropractic did for you or what someone else did for someone in your family? And that's me. I mean, chiropractic literally changed my life. I was running track for a living, right? I had a full, full ride scholarship running, and then I started getting crazy sick. No one could tell me why. My buddy's like, dude, you should go see a chiropractor. And then obviously the rest is history. And we've been so blessed. And, and docs, one of the things that again, here in the Chiropractors Edge, it's really, really important. As I take polls, as I listen to you, once we get the problem solved of you finding your ideal client, you being able to set up your practice, is you have to have tools, strategies, and systems and the relationships in order to run. Again, and a lot of docs have these horrible systems, especially payment systems or really antiquated systems that are just plain old costly. One of the best ways to make money is to save money. And that's one of the things we love with Fortis is we got hit up when we opened up the Chiropractors Edge. We got hit up by probably a dozen or more than a dozen companies who wanted to do basically what Fortis does for us, and not at all. And it's interesting as I vet, because I always want to say, well, what are other people offering? They can't be Fortis's price. They can't integrate like Fortis does. They can't do all the things Fortis does. Like yesterday, one of my favorite points of our point of yesterday was going into this podcast was I walk in with a patient, we do her report of findings, do our ROF, right? We pop on out, and she'd already been seen once or twice in the practice. Her family had been seen. And so I tell the team, here's what we're doing. We're doing a 4-month corrective care plan, 2 times a week. I lay it all out. Team repeats it back to me. They go, great, doc. And they go, okay, so we've got your card on file. And before she said anything, because we have some payment options, she's like, oh yeah, awesome. Just put it on, let's just pay for it today. Card on file is great. Well, that transaction happens all the time, having the card on file. There are so many features that we absolutely love to have that, again, that you guys, due to your expertise that you guys have for. So I love that. Please.
Better than saving money is saving time, right?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, how often will you pay extra to save time, right?
Yep.
It's truly, it doesn't matter. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk cannot buy time back, right? With all the money in the world. And so time is the most finite resource that we have. And so that's one of the things we think about, right? Is we think about how can we save time? Because it's funny, a lot of times, I talk to chiropractors and some of them have, not always the best mindset. They're worried about the chiropractor down the street from them. But
Right.
Chiropractors is such a small fraction of the community, right? And so we have this whole big population out there. And that's one of the reasons we focus on that, is because so many people need chiropractic, especially today with the environments we live in, the food we eat, right? Like everything is subluxating us. And so everyone needs chiropractic. I had, funny enough, someone comment recently on a video where I was talking about lifetime care. And it was a chiropractor not from this country, shocking. And they were saying, who needs lifetime care? And I'm like, I do. I need lifetime care. Like I see a chiropractor still every single week because I want to be functioning optimally. And you know what I don't want to be dealing with? Like I literally do not have time. I don't want to stop and pay every time. I pay in full, right? Like, so we do like 6 months at a time and I pay in full, and they just know auto charge my card every 6 months because I'm coming in for my adjustments, right?
Yes.
And I see my corrective care doc once a week to make sure that I am continually optimized, right? Like that my body is functioning. And when I'm in there, I want to be in and out, time, efficiencies. If they made it a pain in the butt, I would not go in there, right? I specifically look for corrective care docs who have the systems in place when I'm seeing a chiropractor. And so like, imagine how your patients feel. right? Like they don't want to come in there. When I have to go see like a regular doctor for anything, which is very rare, I hate it because I show up at the appointment time and then I sit in the room for 30 minutes and then they put you in the room and then you're waiting another 20, 30 minutes. And I'm like, my guy, my appointment was an hour ago. I have stuff to do. Why is your time more valuable than my time?
Yes.
Right. And so it's as chiropractors, I often say, you're already fighting the system, right? People don't believe in chiropractic. You're already having to convince them of why they need this. The last thing we can do is waste their time. And so it's why when offices give us these ideas of little things that can make it more efficient, nicknaming the card, sharing patient cards across family member accounts, even like pay links as an example. So it's a new feature that we have. You can email or text out payment links. And offices use this for various reasons, right? You meet someone in a screening. I don't have my wallet on me. No problem. I'll text you a link, pay that before you come in for your appointment, right? Things like that. Someone the back balance, you're at a dinner with the doc, whatever it may be. It's all about creating these efficiencies. We don't want the patient having to come in, waste your front desk time, take the payment there. Maybe they won't come in if they didn't pay because they don't feel committed to coming in, right? They haven't given you anything. So they haven't made that true commitment to come in. All these reasons we want to do, we don't want to waste people's time. We don't want to waste resources. We don't want to waste your resources as an office, right? We want to make it more efficient. There's a reason why Amazon keeps your card on file, right? Jeff Bezos is not, it's one-click checkout, right? Why?
Yep.
Now go through the 3 steps, right? If there's no difference, why would they create it? These are companies that study and analyze time efficiency, right? What makes people purchase. And they understand, I forget who coined it, but someone in the payment industry coined frictionless payments.
Yes.
And it's the focus of the payment industry because they know the more friction there is, the less likely someone is to buy, right?
Yes.
So we as an industry, and I say we because I consider myself part of chiropractic.
That's right, man.
We as an industry not take from what the biggest companies in the world are doing and understanding.
Yes. And you brought up, as always, some incredible points. And again, it's convenience because again, it's your track record. At our event the other day, we had a few people that's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have my credit card on me. I said, oh, no problem at all. I said, get your phone out real quick for me. Send in the link, took care of it right then and there. And that was literally so easy. And again, we started this podcast by saying those exact words. When you can decrease the friction to transaction, the easier it becomes. So the other day, so I have a buddy who has, I'm now in the last several years up in my game and my clothes game, and I love a good suit and I love a good pair of shoes, and I love a good watch, and it's stuff that brings me, it's stuff that I'm like, you know what, I've always wanted to dress nice. I'm 6'5", I'm 250, so buying clothes off the rack is what I used to do and try to get it maybe a little altered, and so it's one of the things where I buy things that make me comfortable, and I went. My buddy's like, oh, yeah, you got to use, check this guy out. And it was such a pain in the butt to buy. It wouldn't. So I was putting my card on file. It wouldn't store it. It kept saying, oh, well, it wouldn't work. Well, what if we take $20? I get on a chat thing with this lady and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. Like, I want these clothes, but I'm so done. And it would have just been so much easier. So then I found another, Built does some simple stuff. And, there's some t-shirts I want. I'm like, okay, done. They got my card on file. Just buy 4 more. Right. It is so true. And what you said as well, and some of, we have really good friends, Sean Dale Lacey Book, over at Black Diamond, Dave Meltzer, Mike Chandler, a lot of those incredible people share one thing, that wealthy-minded people will pay a lot of money to save time. Poor-minded people will spend a ton of time to save a little bit of money. Now, Doc, if you're doing something that brings you joy, if you want to mow your lawn because it brings you joy, if you want to, bust out the, your 64 Impala, right? And if you want to work on it yourself because it brings you joy, that's another thing. But doing it because you think it's going to save you money, it will never save you money, especially in our industry. We have never lived, Doc, in a sicker time ever in history. where chiropractic has been more prevalent, you know, and I mean, we get to see the sickest of the sick, and man, we get to see the healthiest of the healthiest. We just had two athletes join our practice, two pretty high-end athletes, and their only goal is to do exactly what Jonathan just said. I want to be 100% function at 100% of my potential. I do not have time to get sick. I do not have time to waste money, and they sure as heck don't have time, and your team does not have time to waste in dabbling. One of the questions that I had, so I have a couple of docs that asked some questions for this podcast, and one of them asked, and I said, well, I can answer it, but I want the master to be able to answer this for you. They said, so they have to input, you know, they have Chiro Touch. I know you guys integrate in a lot of systems, but they have Chiro Touch. But they said the system they have right now, they're having to put payments in 3 different areas. So for every single transaction that happens, now a lot of the docs in the group don't realize this, but if you ask your team's inputting things a minimum of twice in, and it's wasting time. It is wasting their time. And if you're having 3 team members, you know, at 25 to 30 bucks an hour, or depending, you know, where you're at, I mean, that's a lot of money, but you're wasting their time. So the question is, what can Fortis do in this regard for me?
Yeah, so with most of the EHRs, and we are integrated with a majority, and you know, a lot of the big chiropractic EHR systems, the payments just auto post in, right?
Yep.
It's a huge component of it. I always say, you know, when Dr. Ian was adjusting my dad, if he was worried about what was happening at the front desk, about payments, or is it getting collected, or are payments going in, he might not have been focused on that adjustment. Right. And so as a doc, I want the docs focused on the adjustment, right?
Yep.
I don't want you having to think about what happens at the front desk. And for me, like, I'm a finance guy, I'm a numbers guy, I'm a money guy, everything adding up. I'm a spreadsheet nerd. I have to I worked at Wells Fargo in corporate finance. I did internal profitability for the bank. We priced everything out internally. We knew exactly how much every single account at the bank made us. And I did this, and I had to query these databases with hundreds of millions of records to find anomalies. Like, that is how my brain works, right? So we have to find where the data is broken. Why is it broken? What's wrong with this data? Kind of did it in the financial crisis early on when the mortgage portfolio started blowing up, and we were like, what's occurring? Okay. And then we're amortizing loans out and breaking all this data down. That's how my brain works. And so I'm like, okay, what does that mean? It means no payments can be missed. Payments have to go into the ledger, right? Like, we don't want the docs even thinking about, is a payment in the patient's ledger? Is the ledger up to date? And so we take care of all of that, right? Because why should your staff be doing that? We want to eliminate all of these time efficient things staff are doing, so that they can focus on the patients, they can focus on referrals, they can focus on getting patients to maybe the next talk, the next event, right? It's loving on the patients, right? Like, no one feels love when the front desk staff is over here at a computer, just banging away on the keyboard because they're entering patient payments in, right? And they're trying to do it efficiently because you've given them a checklist of things that they have to do during shift, right? And this might be one of them, and they're trying to get out there because they're worried about maybe their kids or the errands they have to run after work or things like that, right? Like, they have a life too. And so we want to remove all of those things so that they can focus on only things that a human can do, right?
Yes.
Technology can't love on a patient, right? It just can't, right? Like, technology can't give that warm smile when a patient walks in, right? Imagine if you're looking at the top of the head of a staff member because they're looking down and entering a payment in, right? Or can't enter a payment into a terminal. And so that's how we genuinely look at it here.
No, docs, listen to what Jonathan is saying. He gets chiropractic. He is chiropractic. Again, some of the biggest advocates of chiropractic that I know are not chiropractors. They're, you know, it's incredible people just like you. He gets chiropractic. He understands chiropractic, and what he is sharing. And these are major business pearls that, again, we teach here at the Chiropractors Edge is, you know, yeah, if your team member's head is down, a back is turned when someone walks in, they're already on the phone. I mean, and again, we have like, what, 4 phones in our practice, and we now have people who can answer the phone. But at any given time, we have between 2 and 3 phone calls coming in. So again, but that point, what you shared is so critical. Being able to connect to your practice member, your patient is so important, and that transaction that transaction is so critical. When we can make it easy, you know, the other day we had a guy knock on our door, and he was doing aerating of lawns, right? And I literally just been saying minutes ago, it's like Amazon was listening, right? And they sent the aerating guy knocking on my door. And I said, gosh, I should aerate this thing. I think it's been 1.5 years or 2 years since I've done it. And literally knocks on my door. He's like, oh, we're aerating. And what did I say? Oh, yeah, I'm not interested. I shut the door and I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Yeah, dude, hang on, wait, come back. So I literally go down the driveway. Hey, come on back. I'm interested. It's human nature. When you haven't created value, it's human nature, even for something you want. Because my first thought was, it's like, do I have cash on hand? What type of things is it going to be? Guy had a little mobile app. It was awesome. It was super simple. I actually asked, I said, hey, we should look into FORTIS. I'm always trying to tout the cool things we do. But I'll tell you though, people, when you can decrease that and change that so it's flawless, just like our patient yesterday. She's like, oh, you've already got her, or for my daughter, you already have the information on file. Yeah, just put it on that card. Easy, sweet. And literally what I did immediately, my team is trained, fantastic. They don't go, yay, we're getting money. You know, inside we are, because we also know we're going to change that person's life. What did I do? What was most important to me? I literally took that patient into room 1 and I gave her an incredible adjustment. That's exactly what I did. And I didn't have to hum and haw. Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? It was so flawless. And that's because of FORTIS. You guys have literally made me millions and millions over the years because of, and you've saved me so much time. The relationship, I highly value the relationship. Again, here at the Chiropractors Edge, Jake Hansen, I only do business with people who love and support chiropractic, who fight for chiropractic, subluxation-based chiropractic. And this is what you guys do. And man, you make my life so much better. And again, you're part of my day multiple times a day, but every morning, man, the first email I open is that FORTIS batch. So docs, I'm grateful to have had Jonathan here today. For those, we will put a link down below for those that would like to be able to understand what FORTIS can do for you. But you need to be able to solve for time for you, your team, and your practice member. And this is one of the greatest benefits that FORTIS will do for you. Jonathan, my man, thanks again for being on with us again today. I'm sure we'll see each other at a seminar here soon. I mean, we cross paths multiple times a year, but we appreciate you fighting for the profession. Thank you for making our lives better. Thank you for making us wealthier and happier people. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.